cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. There are times I wish I knew you like a friend. Maybe if I did, we'd come through in the end. All the opportunities, all the hopes for you and me, stories far from proof. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to my mind. Being different doesn't mean we gotta lie. All we needed is the truth. All we found's a crazy safari every time. Seriously. Stop trying to stop trying to stop trying to look for a fight with me, cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to stop trying to look for a fight with me. Yeah, you gotta know I love you. Yes, I do. And sometimes it ain't enough to make it through. All the names you shout at me, all the red I make you see. Sorry, but it's true. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. There are times I wish I knew you like a friend. Maybe if I did, we'd come through in the end. All the opportunities, all the hopes for you and me, stories far from proof. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to I'm not asking you to read me or my honestly. Stop trying to. Stop trying to. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, 'cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to. Stop trying to look for a fight with me. Yeah, you gotta know I love you. Yes, I do. And sometimes it ain't enough to make it through. All the names you shout at me, all the red eye make you see sorry, but it's true. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, 'cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye. Stop trying to look for a fight with me, 'cause no one will win. I'm spending twice of the energy to watch you begin. Might be too soon to call you out, and maybe someday we'll see eye to eye, eye to eye.
Check, check, check. Hi, everyone. How's it going? It's dolltr. Nice to see all of you again. Oh my goodness, I already see some wonderful names in the chat. Hello, friends. Oh, hello to Ian Smith, one of my dear friends. Maddie D is streaming at the same time. So Maddie D, everyone, is one of our professors. But also hi to Ari. And hi, of course, to Thomas from the 343 Labs name. We are 343 Labs, everyone. If you're tuning in, welcome to our Saturday feedback sessions. This Saturday session is a part of our TV series called 343 TV, where we run programming every day of the week. So from Monday all the way through Saturday, and we do different things every day. So we have some shows on Monday, different shows on throughout the rest of the week. But Saturday is usually the day where Atropolis, or Adam from 343 Labs, who's an amazing instructor as well as an Ableton Certified Trainer, usually gives our feedback sessions. And today I'm here substituting for him, and I'm not Adam, but I'm dolltr. I also go by Claire when I'm teaching at 343 Labs. dolltr's really my artist project. But if you would like to submit any tracks for feedback today, please send them over to the link that Thomas from 343 Labs put in the chat, which is hello@343labs.com. So please head over there if you want to share some tracks. I did get some submissions already, so thank you for sending your stuff over so far. And if you want to have some stuff reviewed or have some things that you'd like us to talk about as a community, please feel free to reach out there. And I will also preface this by saying that I don't usually give, I'm not usually the most open with feedback, and that's because I have a strong belief in the power of giving solicited feedback versus unsolicited feedback. I'm always super wary about feedback sessions in general when they're not conducted in a safe or a closed environment where everyone's aware of what they're getting into. And it's mostly because, and maybe some of you out there who are watching, who are producers as well, can relate to this. But when I was first starting off production, I would just get a lot of people telling me things like, oh, you should do this. Like, I love your track, but it sounds like the mix could be done like this and this and this. And sometimes I would listen to these people and do exactly what they advised in their feedback, and things would sound even more terrible. So it's like, how do you trust? So I have a lot of opinions about unsolicited feedback and how it's probably one of the worst things that a developing producer can receive, especially if you're not sure about what constitutes like good feedback and what isn't good feedback. So I'll say a few things which people have often argued with me about or had very lively conversations with me about. But the first is that don't take unsolicited feedback regardless of who it's from. And oftentimes, and then of course maybe you get the question, follow-up question, what if it comes from a really professional person? Well, here's the thing. A professional usually won't give unsolicited feedback. So boom, there's your answer. The second thing is to note is that you don't always have to take feedback. So for example, I have a couple of track submissions here, or the first track submission at least for today. And to the person who submitted this, like, I'll give feedback, but you might not need to take it. It's totally up to you. And I think that the last point that I'll make before actually moving on is don't take feedback from people that you don't trust, I think. Because, for example, some of the most trusted people that I have taken feedback from are really the friends or the colleagues that I have heard the music of and that I respect and that I trust emotionally too, because sharing your music with people is a very vulnerable sort of process. So thank you to everyone who's sending in tracks. Really appreciate it. And yeah, for example, Ian, who's one of my friends in the chat, I would trust them with listening to my music. So I would trust them for feedback, but probably not my next door neighbor who thinks that by listening to Flume, they are an expert. So just a bit of a heads up. But our first track, it looks like I have in the email right now. I'm going to download that. And it's from Ari. Thank you, Ari. Ari's in the chat also. Thank you for sending this over. I'm just going to download it at the moment. And let's see. Cool. So Ari, if you would like to even share with us a little bit in the YouTube chat, maybe a couple of your thoughts about where this track is currently at while I'm getting this set up, that would be awesome. But I have your track over here. It is titled August 2020 Beat. So let's just wait for it to be analyzed and to load. And boom, here it is. I'm also going to make sure that warp is off because live likes warping things. Cool. Hi, Ari. How's it going? Yeah, if you want to just share a little bit. I've got your track up here. Really excited to listen to it. Thank you for also sending it over. So yeah, if you want to give us some info, maybe while we listen to the track even, that might be kind of cool. And for everyone who just joined in, I saw the numbers bump up. Welcome to 343 TV. This is our feedback session that we usually have on Saturday. If you are new to the channel, I'll speak more about it later. But in the meantime, if you have a track that you would like to share with everybody or that you'd like to get a little bit of feedback from, you can send it to the email in the YouTube chat, and that's hello@343labs.com. And I shared a little bit about how I was an instructor of 343 Labs. I'm also an Ableton Certified Trainer, and I work a lot with different kinds of groups in things like workshopping songs and workshopping production. So if you do want to share, this will be your great opportunity to do that and maybe get some dolltr insights, which are probably very different from Atropolis insights too, but hopefully as useful. So here we go. Here is Ari's tune. I'm also going to adjust the volume accordingly, but here we go. awesome. Thanks so much, Ari, for sharing that. That was a really great track. I'm not sure if you have a name for this yet since it's called like August 2020 beat. But no, it sounded great. I loved the overall vibe of it. The hi-hat programming was excellent. That was really great. I also did love the different kinds of energy in the various sections. So I think that this was a really great start for a lot of compositional stuff. I just saw the note that you left in the chat. Thanks also for sharing so much information. So it says, sounds very repetitive. Tried adding a bell thing every so often, but it sounds off. And you're most welcome. So what I feel like there are a couple of moments with bell sounds in here. So I'm not exactly super sure of what bell sound you're referring to, because there's the mark tree, which is the like chime sort of sound that I think pops up possibly here. There's those bells also. Yeah, there's the mark tree. So the mark tree is that percussion instrument that you usually see a lot of drummers or percussionists like stroke, and it goes like, so it's like a little bit like chimes. And that's over here, I believe. Reversed mark tree and then other mark tree. Okay, cool. And then there's the bell parts in here, which I actually really, really liked. So put a little marker there. Also, just so everyone's watching, you might have seen that as I was listening to this, I started putting markers in. That's not anything at all that you should be concerned about. That's really just for me so that I can navigate quickly between sections when I'm giving feedback. And also sometimes it talks about, it deals with like, you know, little moments that where you can actually see changes in the programming. So for example, here between marker 5 and 6, there's like a change in maybe something that was added. So adding in an additional element. Yeah, so on the topic of being repetitive, this is a conversation that I've had with a lot of students also. And before I dive even further, I usually try to think about giving feedback also in a couple of different veins. So there's things that you can give in that are really technical. So they could be things like mixing, mastering, other elements that maybe are a little bit more on the techie, very more straightforward kind of side in a way. And then there's, of course, there's the compositional, which I feel is even more subjective. So maybe in terms of being repetitive, it might be more of a compositional concern that we have, not concern, but topic for discussion. And to be frank, I liked how it was repetitive. I thought that the fact that it was repetitive in terms of musical material gave a lot of cohesion to the overall piece, and I thought that it really created this really great vibe about how it's a little bit laid back, but also the subtleties with the hi-hats were keeping things interesting. As far as being repetitive and adding in different sounds though, so like adding a bell on top or adding some kinds of different elements on top, sometimes when I have repeated sections, I try to think of them in the context of energy. So for example, we've got these two sections over here at marker 2 and marker 3 that are kind of back to back. But what's different about them? Well, in the first section, I heard how it was a bit more normal. And then at marker 3, we have the bell introduced at the top. So because of that, I did feel it added an extra element. And maybe this is something that is a little bit of a broader topic. Generally, when we're thinking about energy levels, I try to split them in a very gross kind of, not gross as in like disgusting, but like a rough sort of way into low, middle, and high. Generally, if you add more high frequency elements, those elements are going to contribute to more high energy stuff. And that's the reason why if I played, say, a drum groove and I added in some kinds of hi-hats, it just adds a totally different level to it. This is very commonly done in a lot of house music and actually most music genres. When you add in an additional element that involves something that's high frequency, it kind of bumps everything up, especially if you don't have it and then you suddenly add it back in. So maybe to demonstrate this, I'll just quickly pull up an example of just like let me just get an 808 kit over here. And I'll just program in a quick little sound. Let me solo this. Let me also decrease the volume, double click to insert a clip, loop that, and great, here we go. So if I were to program in, say, like some kind of 4 on the floor, and let's even not do something too long. Let's just do that, for example. Great. So I'm just doing a 4 on the floor drum pattern, and then maybe with some claps on the backbeat. And then for now, I'm also going to put in some hi-hats, but this is something that I'll also temporarily mute, just to illustrate what I mean by the high frequency thing. So usually in a lot of drum kits, we tend to think of like the three most quintessential parts as being a kick, a clap, or a snare, so kick is low, clap or snare is in the middle, and then hi-hats are in the top. If I mute all of these hi-hats and I just play this, we have like a relatively steady energy level. But if I add all of these in at the next cycle, we're gonna feel like a difference in them. So here we go. So it's like we're growing to something, bringing the energy up. And of course, we can take it away too. So let's take it away in 4, 3, 2, 1. And everything's back with the energy level. So maybe dealing with the hi-hats or high sounds could be helpful in making things perhaps sound a bit less repetitive. And maybe that's something to consider also with the specific bell sound, because I did like the bell sound a lot in your track, Ari. Let's listen to it again. So da 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 da. So the nice thing about these bells is that they're not super I was going to say congested. No, they're not super close to each other, but they're kind of spaced out. And because of that, they give a really nice open sort of feeling to them. That said, they do sound as if they might be in the same general frequency range as the piano and the guitar, which I'll also get to in a little bit, and I liked a lot as well. But they're in that same kind of general frequency range. So maybe as far as the bells go, Ari, try moving them up an octave. That might be kind of nice. Like if you tried to maybe put them up a little higher, so 1 or 2 octaves, they could contribute a bit more to the higher frequency spectrum. Maybe something else to also think about is between the first section over here, the first major section, I always react so differently to this word drop. Everyone talks about the drop. This isn't really a drop, but it's a nice, lush, sort of chill section also. So I like it very much. We'll call it the drop arbitrarily for now, but it's this section. So let's listen to it the first time. Now, in this first section, we've already got some really nice hi-hats going on in the higher range. So I'm wondering what would happen if maybe we held back on those. So just imagine the hi-hats aren't there. Imagine the hi-hats aren't there. And then suddenly when we get into the third section, we have them introduced. So that could be something that maybe we can try out. So just adding in like a different element to that second section over there. And maybe this is also another compositional thing that I talk about as well. But it's the idea that a lot of songs out there in the world are really, really great starting points for thinking about composition. Even if we tend to make instrumental music, like I make a lot of instrumental music too, sometimes I find it really useful to still think of my instrumental music in the context of a song. So if I kind of pretend and I say, if I ever got a vocalist to sing on this, or if my lead synth was instead sung by a vocalist, which part would be the verse? Which part would be the chorus? Which part would be the post-chorus, which is sometimes, an augmentation of the first chorus. So it ends up being like an even more exciting part. And that's usually what we think about in if you ever hear any kinds of electronic dance music songs that have a double chorus. So there's like a seemingly really upbeat first chorus, but then it starts getting even more upbeat and there's like a synth lead in it and it gets really nice and a little crazy. And a really great example of this that I just thought of off the top of my head is You and Me by Disclosure. It's a garage tune, but in the first chorusy part, there's like vocals. And then in the immediate chorusy part after that, it's all instrumental, but the way that they construct it is like there's a lot of stuff going on that even augments the energy by adding in more high frequency stuff, all that too. But yeah, so maybe that's the compositional part, Ari, but really great work on this. I wanted to maybe speak also a little bit about the programming because I really liked what you did. And even going between the first section and the second section, as well as a bit of the end actually, which is section number 8 that you see over here at the end. Going between all of these, when I was listening to the first section and the second section, something that immediately struck me was your programming of the claps and the snares and a lot of that mid-frequency range information. So let's take a listen to this. Second section. Cool. And let's take a pause there. So I liked how a lot of these mid-range parts were kind of like weaving in with each other. I really loved how the piano and guitar were kind of interlocking. That's it though. Let's take another listen just to the beginning where we don't have any drums or percussion in yet, but it's really just the piano and guitar kind of having a conversation. And now I love piano and guitar at the same time. Oftentimes in a lot of my productions as well, I love using the piano and guitar simultaneously. That's it though. We do have to be a little bit careful because when they do get into that mid-lower range, sometimes they can sound as if they might be what's called masking each other. And that means that one sound and another sound are fighting for the same range of frequencies. And because piano and guitar both can play chords, you'll often find them both in bands as well. They need to be really carefully used in tandem with each other because oftentimes if they're alone, so for example, the really nice guitar intro, which I'm curious, Ari, did you play this yourself? If you can drop something in the chat, because it sounds really nice. I love this guitar part. Very cool. It sounds really great on its own, but the moment the piano comes in, or a secondary guitar comes in, it sounds a little bit muddy, and there may or may not be a note clash in there, in that lower range, which is in that second chord over there. There may or may not be a note clash in the specific fragments that you were using in the piano and the guitar. A really great way to look out for this, if I can just pull up another MIDI track again. Let me just grab a pretty generic kind of sound. But let's look for my electric piano. Cool. I like using this piano thing that's called EP Faceplant. It works really well. But let's see if I can just demonstrate this. So if I'm playing something in the lower range on this piano sound, so even lower over here, if you're using MIDI, a really great way to cross-check this is sometimes you may have sounds that are actually like a half step apart. So they'll sound a little bit like that. They may sound as if they could be fighting with each other. They might even, if they're playing like a continuous pattern, they might even be just like overlapping a little. But that's enough to create a little bit of tension in there too. Sometimes in lower ranges, even notes that sound usually really good in higher ranges might sound not as good just because of the range itself. So for example, to illustrate this, let's make a minor third, which in a higher range sounds good. Ooh, whoops, let me also make sure that I'm there. Like that's a nice minor sort of sound. If I drop this down an octave, still sounds good, still sounds pretty harmonious, goodness, harmonious, pretty clear. If I drop it down even more an octave though, starting to get a little muddy. So even though it's still by right, theoretically should sound good, starting to get a little muddier. If we drop it down one more octave, ooh. So that's actually a rule. Goodness, I'm forgetting this now, but I learned back in school many years ago, and this dates me a little bit, I guess. But in school, I did an arranging class on actually traditional sorts of arrangement. And there's a rule that you have in a lot of, not a rule really, but a general guiding principle that when you go beyond a certain note in the frequency range, it's usually not good to have any close range intervals. So it's good to have things like that are, say, an octave apart, because you'll still get that emptiness in sound. But the idea is that in a chord, the lower in the range you go, the frequency range, the more spaced apart you want things to be. So Ari, if you have a moment, maybe it might be nice to just check which notes are in that specific section over here. Especially between the guitar part and I think the piano part that's repeating behind it. Because individually, those parts are really great. I can kind of hear the line that the piano is playing as well. If we listen back to this again. Or it might actually be a second guitar. So there's like two parts, I think. So maybe just checking which ranges that they're in. Another thing to do possibly is to also just EQ them a little bit differently. So this is maybe going a little bit more in depth, and I do want to be mindful of the time also. So that could be something else to think about as well. But thank you so much, Ari, and I'll just wrap this up by saying that overall, this was a really great submission. So thank you so much for letting us kind of dive in a little bit and dissect your piece. Thank you. Yay! I just thought we had another submission. Ooh, this one is from SoundCloud instead. Cool. So let's see, actually, if I can do this. This one is from Vinny. Do we have Vinny in the chat? Vinny, if you're in the YouTube chat. Paul, yeah, hi in the YouTube chat. If you want to submit for feedback, I know we're kind of running out of time. I may actually go over today because I do enjoy hanging out with y'all. So let me do this. Ooh, how should I do this? Okay, cool. Great. That's an excellent way of doing that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to route my computer audio, do a couple of fancy things. Well, not super fancy, but cool. Let's see. Can I do that actually? Oh, okay. Give me 1 second, everyone. But yeah, while I'm working out this audio stuff, let's see if... Cool. So I think I have a way to do this, but what it might involve is me not being able to be heard at certain times. So if you can send a file, everyone, that's usually really, really helpful. This next one that I have is a link, which is no problem as well as too, but I'll have to switch around a little bit. So I think I've got it, but let me just make sure. Cool. So here's the second submission. Okay, so the next two submissions, the second and third are both links, which we'll try our best to listen to. I might not be able to give such detailed feedback because I can't see the audio file for it. But really appreciate y'all anyway. Anyway, if Vinny's in, yeah, hey, Vinny, nice to see you. Thank you. Cool. So we're gonna listen to this, and I'm going to hopefully play it through. You won't hear me speak for a second, but I'm still here. You can still see me. I'm just gonna change my audio inputs and outputs. So here we go.
Chocolate blood and cocoa rain flows downstreams till the heart's entertained. Cancel my culture, record on my brain. We're riders of the storm, bulls on parade. But you know what I'm living, 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 you knock 3 times on heaven's gate. Please let me in, these thoughts are contained. Love is love, ain't a damn thing changed. Let God judge it, we'll ride out the rain. Ride out the rain, yeah, we'll ride out the rain. Rewrite those times when life was contained. Shackled toes, step awry from the chain. Planters slain, no soul, no name. Chocolate blood and cocoa rain flows downstream till the heart's entertained. Cancel my culture, record on my brain. We're riders of the storm, bulls on parade.
We don't recognize, no, we don't recognize roadside steam, the blood in the eyes. Roll motor people in the dreams that light. Don't look back, just a bump on the side.
But you know what I'm living, know what I'm living, know what I'm living, you know chocolate blood and cocoa rain flows down streams till the heart's entertained. Cancel my culture, record on my brain. We're riders of the storm, bulls on parade. But you know what I'm living, 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 you know what I'm living. Chocolate blood and cocoa rain. Living. Flows down streams. You know what I'm living. You know what? You know what I'm living. You know what? You know what I'm living.
Yeah, that was awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, Vinny. Let me change my audio. Gosh, here we go. Yeah, great. Cool. Ooh, I realized that I can also do that. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Cool. So, yay, thank you so much, Vinny, for sharing that. I'm going to pop over into the YouTube chat to see if we're all over there. Yeah, totally. That was great. Well done. I thought that was so well put together. I loved the overall vibe. Thought it was really great. I hope you forgive me because I can't really see the full track like in live, but I did make a couple of markers for sections. This is something I also do for a lot of the feedback that I give when I don't have access to the actual audio file. I loved all the vocal stuff. My favorite part was the vocoder, like so well done. Love the textures there. At the end, when it came in at towards the second half, like it was a really pleasant surprise. I'm like, I guess I'm 343 Labs resident vocoder person because I love vocoders so much. But no, I thought it was really tastefully done. I loved especially at the end when it was kind of one of the last things to fade out at the end too. Oh, Nathan, hello. Hi. How's it going? Nathan is another really awesome member of our 343 Labs community. Great to see you and great to see everyone else in the chat as well. Vinny, again, if you don't mind me giving a couple of suggestions, and you don't have to take any of this at all, but I also love your vocals. I'm hopefully assuming that those are yours, and hopefully it's not an incorrect assumption, but I loved the vocals, loved the delivery of it, loved the title of the song too. The title of the song, everyone, was Together, and it was, I like the notions of the cocoa as well. That was very nice. Cool. So on to a couple of things, maybe also because I'm really into vocals whenever I hear them. I loved the lyrics. I loved the vocal content. If I had to be like super nitpicky, sometimes there are a couple of moments in the vocals where I'm listening to them, I'm super into them, and then I get thrown off by a s. And that's something that I maybe am more aware of because I'm also a big culprit of it. So there are a couple of people in the world that have hypersibilant voices. I'm one of those people. What that basically means, and this is more of the techie side of or nerdy side even, what that means is that when you say or ask an aspiration, so things like so sibilant words, like sibilant parts of words like that phonetically, your tongue is very close to, not your tongue, but the person's tongue is very close to the back of their teeth. So because of that, anything that's like, that comes through very clearly. And I'm really guilty of that as well. I have a hypersibilant voice. So because sometimes hypersibilant voices exist in the world, we might have to be a bit careful about things like compression and also just how overall higher frequencies sound in the voice. Abe! Oh my goodness, it's Abe 2K. Wow. Abe's like one of our amazing instructors at 343 Labs too, everyone. So hi, Abe. Shout out to Abe. Yeah, really great job. This was a really great track. I think like if you might want to just be like a super little bit careful about the sibilant sounds, because there are a couple of moments in the tune where I think where it came in. Let me just check it out. I left a note for myself somewhere. Yes, cool. 30 seconds. Cool. So 30 seconds, around here, I believe. Yeah, I can hear the track, but oh no, I can't hear it. Cool, let me switch over my inputs again. Give me 1 second. Oop.
On parade, but you know what I'm living. Rewrite those times when life was contained. Shackled toes, step awry from the chain. Sure, record on my brain. We're riders of the storm, bulls on parade.
Cool. So forgive me if I'm getting the lyrics wrong, but there's one part where it's like, I think Riders of the Storm, and it's like Riders of the Storm, and the sounds are a little bit forward. So one way that you could go about doing this is something that I do as well, is you could physically cut out the S's and just turn them down in terms of volume. And one other thing that you could do also is to just de-ess and put a de-esser on that. There is I think in Compressor within Live, there's a really great de-esser preset. You could also, I use one de-esser that I'm actually a really big fan of, and let's see if we can find it. Yes, it's called Sibilance Live by Waves. And hopefully you're able to see this. Are you able to see this? Are people able to see this? I think so, maybe. Yeah, cool. So Sibilance Live is really good at taking away a lot of these sibilant frequencies, and apologies for all my windows like flying around. But yeah, so if I pull this over here, you can kind of see how even when I say anything that has an S in it, my voice is very sibilant. So you probably won't need to do something as aggressive, but maybe just a tiny bit of de-essing on the voice. And I think that'll also help a little bit with how sometimes the vocal sounds a little bit tinny. So by bringing that down, we'll probably be able to control that a bit more too. Otherwise, I think maybe also just be a little bit careful of how loud or how soft they are. There was a point in the song, I think around, where was my marker that I left for us? Around, yes, 1 minute or 1 minute and 10 seconds where the vocals, I think, came in, and it was a really nice moment where like we're getting this more forward vocal, but I think volume wise, it might have been an increase of a good number of dB. So it was a little bit shocking. So yeah, just being a little bit careful of that. And again, de-essers we have to also be a little bit careful of it because we don't want to make them totally, squash out all of the S's, because then we start sounding like we might have a lisp. A lisp. And because of that, we might not also get clarity in the vocal. But overall, really great job, Vinny. Thanks so much for sharing that tune of us. Let's pop over to the next person. And I believe this came from, who did this come from? Let's see. Oh my goodness, I just suddenly saw all these extra submissions. Cool. This came from Michael. Hi, Michael. I see you in the chat. Let's take a listen to this tune from Michael that's called Odd Days Ahead. So here we go. that was awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that, Michael. That was really, really great. This is Odd Days Ahead from Michael, who sent it in. Yeah, really great track. And one of my favorite parts was honestly the ending also. I think I have a thing with like intros and endings. Like if a song ends well, it sticks with you in your head. And for me, I loved that ending. It was a really nice tail off with very subtle pitch stuff going on too. So I really loved that. Oh my goodness, it's Max. Hi. Hello, Max. Max is our co-founder live from Berlin. He usually hosts Theory Thursdays and it's like, hey, the gang's all here. Nice to see all of you. Hi, Andrew, as well. Welcome back. Abe, amazed as to how he managed to chat and still sound. I think it's like, it's just, I don't know. I don't know, Abe. I don't know. The stress is on the inside, but it's okay. I'm glad that I seem calm. At the same time, though, I think like listening to the track that Michael just shared, I loved how, and maybe this might be also a really great comparison against something that Vinny mentioned. Sorry, not Vinny. Ari mentioned just now, like the idea of being repetitive. I think this track was a really great example, especially in the second half, about how yes, sections can repeat, but if you have subtle things changing in between sections or from section to section, it can be really exciting. So for example, one thing that really caught my attention was how the vocals return. There was like a vocal swell that comes back in around 240 that I thought compositionally was really great. That was like a really great way to, add a little bit of like almost poking at the listener's ear and being like, are you still actually listening? If not, here's a vocal that comes back in. So that was really great. Thanks for sharing that, Michael. The main thing that I was thinking about throughout this track is that I loved how the snare was very forward, but maybe it could be nice to add just a little bit of space to that. And maybe by that I mean just a hint of reverb to put things a little bit more into context with the rest of the song, because I love how the rest of the song really fits together. Even the parts with like the conversational stuff that was going on, like you'll have one synth do something like da da da, and then the others, and then there would be like a background, slightly delayed version of that. So almost like the synths are in composition with each other, conversation with each other. I loved that part. But even through that, it seemed like the snare was like a little bit in my face. Also because I believe it is panned like dead center, so it's a little bit like I would love to listen to the synths, and then I'm having the snare that's kind of in my face. But no, really loved that. I loved the switch up, like within the first minute. So we started somewhere, we kind of moved to a different location. I'm wondering if maybe that could have been facilitated maybe with a little bit more of a transitional sort of element. So perhaps adding in some other kind of maybe effect, or either audio effects or sound effects to make that a little bit more smoother. I know that you did put in a couple of those, which I really loved. I'm wondering if maybe that could have been shaped a little bit more smoothly to facilitate that genre or groove transition rather. But otherwise, that was a really great track. Thanks so much for sharing that, Michael. Really appreciate that. So let's move on to our next friend that we have. This one is from, okay, cool. It looks like this one's from Paul. Thanks for sending an audio file, Paul. I'll be able to drag this into live. Let's pull it up. And it seems like this is a progressive track, perhaps. Let's see what we got over here. And I'll also turn that off. And let's wait for it to load and to come up. And also delete the rest of the clips going on over here. Actually, Max, that's a really great comment. So Max just replied to Abe about like the multitasking thing. Yeah, I think so. I think like maybe Claire's taking care of this feedback side and then dolltr's monitoring the chat. Honestly, that's probably how it's going. So let's just keep going with this. Also, let's make sure that's not warped. And sometimes live does do this. Great. Okay, cool. Let's make sure the clip is activated. And hi also to Scott. Yeah, kind of. It's been a busy but very, very fruitful 343 TV week. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Let's take a listen to Paul's track. I'm also noticing how it's a little bit long. So Paul, maybe what I'll do for your track is listen to the first section, and then we can talk about it and we can take a pause. And if there's another track submission that's after you, then maybe we'll have to get to that. But otherwise, let's take a listen. Cool. So we might have to take a pause there because I just saw that we did have one more submission. But Paul, that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate it. Really love the entire vibe of the track. I think this was compositionally, this was kind of like a really great example of all the stuff that I talked about at the beginning of the stream. I spoke about how like if you introduce in like higher frequency elements, for example, you can add a little bit more to the energy. And that was like a really great example of doing that. Like this was really, really great with the way that you would move from section to section. Loved the transition around locator number 4 that you see here. I still call it marker because I still think of logic, but okay. Here we go. Let's make this louder. Reverse vocal. Love that. That was like such a moment. I think that was my favorite part of the track so far. But the entire track was really, really well composed. Loved it a lot. I think like, to be honest, the only pieces of feedback that I have are really, really small, and it's just really subtle kinds of things. For example, around in the intro, you had this wonderful noise riser that was kind of building to a moment. Over here, I believe, maybe it's a little further down. Over here. And this is really just like a super subtle thing. But maybe check if you're using Live to make this particular song, check what warp mode it's on, because it sounds like the riser is on beats mode. And I've noticed that for a lot of noise risers, both within and outside of Live, like even if you get it from a sample pack and you put it into Live, sometimes the beat detection can be a little bit strange, and it can make the noise sound a bit more choppy than we might intend it to be. So I'd say just see if you can check what warp mode that's on, and maybe play with the different warp modes. Usually for noise, especially if I'm stretching it out or doing any kind of like time manipulation to it, I try to keep it on complex or complex pro, just because it facilitates a bit more of a smoother time stretching algorithm than beats. It sounds like the noise might be on beats. So let me just listen to that again. Yeah, like there's moments where there's like a tiny like over there. It's very, very negligible, but I feel like maybe if that was smoothened out, it could really give that sense of like anticipation rising to a point where we finally get to number 2 after that break and everything is like hitting really hard. Really love it too. The overall vibe, yeah, agreeing with Max also. The chords, I love like the chord progression. I love the synth programming, stuff like that. And yeah, that transition from 3 to 4 was like one of my favorite parts. And on that end, like the only second thing that I could think of was right as we approach number 5. Like I loved that moment over there. I'm wondering if maybe to facilitate this even a little bit more, because I love that stark difference that you get from dropping out all of the other higher synths and then focusing on the lower bass synth. I'm wondering if to make that even more surprising, if this last part over here, that last synth, maybe you could stretch it all the way to the end of the bar, because I think right now it's ending at the end of the 3rd beat. If you stretch that out, maybe just like one more note. I'm wondering if the contrast then, when you hit the new section without any of those higher synths, it'll be like completely taken out. So that might be an interesting thing to explore. But otherwise, thank you so much, Paul, for submitting this. Really appreciate it. And thank you for sending an audio file so that we can take a look at it. We have one last one also, which is also an audio file. This one is Sneaky Dubstep from, let me see who it's from. Again, I think it's from Nishark. Is Nishark in the chat? I think I did see your name. Also hi to anyone who just joined in. We are actually wrapping up. Ryan from Instagram. Hi. Yeah. Nice to see you. Yeah, totally. Great job, Paul. And let's see. Oh, yes. Also, Abe, that's an excellent point. Just like overall bass. Though I will say, to be completely transparent, bass does get a little bit lost, I've found. Like throughout the live streaming stuff, especially if I'm using like other things like Soundflower for some reason. I know theoretically it should be able to like replicate audio and get it like completely, with the actual fidelity that it has. But for some reason I noticed that the bass gets a little bit wonky. Maybe it's just my head also. It could be a psychological thing. But thanks, Paul. So here's one from Nishark. This also looks a little louder and possibly bus compressed. So let's decrease the volume and let's take a listen to it. Here we go. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was so awesome. No, the song hasn't ended yet. Yeah, the song's ended. Yeah. Thanks so much, Nishar, for sharing that. I just saw the note that you left in the chat. For 4 months producing, this is amazing. You should be so proud of yourself. This is a really great tune. When the drop hit, like that was amazing as well. Like I think all of us were really loving that build up at 5. Yeah. I was like, whoa, awesome. Cool. Now, one thing I was kind of thinking of was like, this drop is so wonderful and so filled out. And then in the second half, I do believe you had like the vocals come in. And I like how they are contrasting to the main kind of sound design stuff that's going on. Very classic dubstep, very well programmed. But I'm almost wondering, because of this, in order to make it a little bit more contrasting, maybe that you could bring them up in volume. And I'm wondering also if maybe you could, if maybe their reverb could be a little bit more fine-tuned. Because right now it seems to have a really short tail. I'm wondering if it has a longer tail on the reverb, so a longer decay time, whether that might even make it seem more ethereal and a little bit more floaty in contrast to the drums. And I think that could work really great. And I just saw Abe said the exact same thing. So yeah, I think the vocals could come up a bit. Maybe it's also because I'm a vocalist, so I tend to think of vocals like in a bit more of an important thing. And yeah, Abe, like I just saw what you said just now about the bass. I'm wondering if it is something like that. That may be something to investigate in the next week. And I know we're over time, but I'll elaborate on that a little bit later for the future of 343 TV. But yeah, so I think if you want to maybe bring the vocals up just like a tiny bit more, that might be really cool. Also because I like the vocal entry at 3, and I think it kind of like sets us up for something really nice. It's like, oh hey, there's more vocals. It's like, so it could be a nice like recurring theme if it's more, I guess, in upfront in the mix. There's another tiny thing, and this again might also have something to do with the overall, just like the mix on the track. I do believe you might have had like a bus compressor overall, or master bus compressor. But if I listen to it's super subtle, but when I'm listening to the guitar as well as the plucked synths, one thing I was noticing about both of them is that the attacks seem to be like a tiny bit distorted. So I'd say I'm wondering if maybe you could check the attack time on your compressors. Try to avoid attack times that are like 0. And I'm not saying that you did that, but it's just like an overall, if you have a very short attack time, sometimes that can distort the transient information on compressors. Without going like too much in depth on compression, because I know we're already over time. Let me just check how fast or how what number of milliseconds if your compressor attack is in milliseconds or even a fraction of a millisecond. In a lot of my older tracks that I've produced also, I once opened up a really old session that I did in Logic actually. I looked at the compressor attack time and all of them were like all the way down and I was like, why did I do that? But no, that tends to leave a little tiny bit of distortion. And then because of that, what you might be able to do is that with less of that, you could try rebalancing a couple of the volumes. You might not need to mix certain things as loud or as softly. But because of that, I think the pluckiness could come out a little bit more and be a little bit more organically plucky. Oh God, Nishak, no problem. It's all good. It's also a lot of trial and error, I think. And the more we listen to stuff, the more we get attuned to it. So this is really great for 4 months. Thank you so much for sharing this track with all of us. And that's also something that I've noticed a bit on even just like when dealing with vocals in general. Sometimes I think about like how much am I compressing this vocal or not. And that might also affect ultimately how the rest of the vocals sit in. So maybe check that on all of the compressors if that was something that you did on all of the compressors, because for drums, that could also be a thing as well. But overall, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to today's feedback session. It's been really neat to hang out with everyone. Thank you so much, Abe, for dropping by. Like, this is crazy. It's the Abe Duque. Everyone, go check out Abe's streams. Abe usually streams on Friday. But as a last note, I also just wanted to say that we are not doing 343 TV next week. So thank you so much to everyone who submitted. This was pretty much like the last feedback session that we might have for a bit. But really appreciate everyone sending in such awesome tracks. I think we got through like 5 or 6 submissions. A big thing, since this is the last episode of 343 TV for a while, we went over a bit over time, but a big thank you to everyone who's been a part of it. Thank you so much to everyone in the community who showed up for these streams, like even just passing in and out. It's been so great to have all of you with us in this virtual space, even despite, the entire coronavirus situation. Thank you to all of the 343 Labs instructors for streaming. I do the Monday show. John, I was going to say Selway, but yeah, it's true, Selway. Selway does the Tuesday show, and Satni also substituting for the Tuesday show. Justin on the Wednesday show for 343 TV doing Logic stuff. Max and TAETRO on Thursday. Abe on Friday. Adam on Saturday, usually, except here. I'm not Adam, I'm Claire. And Thomas every day running everything behind the scenes. Please give Thomas a big hand, everyone. He's running the 343 Labs account right now. And he's figuring out how to do like all the streaming stuff, getting us sorted. Oh no, thanks, Abe. I'm a huge Abe Duque fan. Thank you so much, Nathan, for popping by. Nathan's a really important member of our community as well. And he has got some amazing tracks. I think I'll always remember Nathan's story about how he wanted to have like a track signed, and then in less than a year, after like setting out to do that, he got it signed. So like, yay, Nathan. If you do want to take lessons with us at 343 Labs, please head over to 343labs.com. If you happen to be located in Berlin, we have a Berlin location now where Max is. So you can head over to 343labs.de, DE for the German side, to find out more information about that. And at any time, if you do want to get more information from us in general, you can reach out to us through our contact form on the website, and also just by tuning into more of our activities. And because we're kind of going to be away for a while, if you do want to be updated for when we go live next, please subscribe to the 343 Labs YouTube channel, as well as turn on that notification bell. So when you subscribe, you will be able to get updates for uploads. But if you turn on the notification bell, you can get immediate email notifications for whenever we have a new video or for whenever we have a new live stream. So hit that notification bell. If you'd like to find me as well, I'm also on other platforms. Like I said, usually when I teach, I go by Claire. But when I am doing artist stuff or my own streaming stuff too on my own YouTube channel, I go by dolltr. So you can find me there in lowercase letters as DOLLTR !CK. All other spellings probably not authorized by me. So that's how you know whether something's official or not by the stylization. But yeah, I run a YouTube channel as well, and you can head over there if you'd like to see a few of my content videos as well. But please subscribe to 343 Labs. It's been a joy streaming and hanging out with all of you. And we really, really hope to see you again soon. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Have a beautiful Saturday or Sunday, depending on where you are in the world. Have a great rest of the day, everyone. See you soon.
I could win, I could lose, I could choose to stand my ground. Thick or thin, black or white, day and night, we're safe and sound. Play the game, play it cool by the rules we dare not break. You could stay, but I say I'm awake, I live my way. Watch me stunning. Oh, L. Won't be shunning. Oh, L. Don't keep fronting. Oh, L. Coming up, we're on our way. 'Cause I fell behind, waiting for another chance to climb. Yeah, I walked the line, waiting for another day to fly. Take my hand this time, we're gonna make the stars align. Now you see where I lead, You'll follow. You'll follow me. Break away, break a day, find a way, no holding back. To the stars, to the sun, gotta run, gotta keep on track. Turning up, lady luck is on my team. Looking right, looking left, better yet, you'll see my dreams. 'Cause I fell behind, waiting for another chance to climb. Yeah, I walked the line, waiting for another day to fly. Take my hand this time, we're gonna make the stars align. Now you see where I lead, You'll follow. You'll follow me. Waiting for another chance to climb. Yeah, I walked the line, waiting for another day to fly. Take my hand this time, we're gonna make the stars align. Done with thinking twice, I'm building me a different life. Watch me stunning. Oh, L. Won't be shunning. Oh, L. Don't keep running. Oh, L. Coming up, we're on our way. You'll follow. You'll follow me. Take my hand this time, we're gonna make the stars align. Now you see where I lead, You'll follow. I could win, I could lose, I could choose to stand my ground. Thick or thin, black or white, day and night, we're safe and sound. Play the game, play it cool by the rules we dare not break. You could stay, but I say I'm awake, I live my way. Watch me stunning. Oh, L. Won't be shunning. Oh, L. Don't keep fronting. Oh, L. Coming up, we're on our way. 'Cause I fell behind, waiting for another chance to climb. Yeah, I walked the line, waiting for another day to fly. Take my